You're listening to your favorite podcast about Flesh and Blood and its community. Welcome to Last Ditch Effort.
Welcome back to the second episode of the Last Ditch Effort podcast, and thanks for tuning in again with Maurice and Patrick. Today we'll talk about our experiences from the skirmish that we hyped up last time. We'll talk a little bit about the current living legend pace in Blitz. Go over some heavy hitter spoilers with afterwards a small discussion on variance in Flesh and Blood. So yeah, welcome back, Maurice.
Yeah, welcome.
Let's quickly talk about our skirmish experience. It was an experience.
Yeah, let's call it an experience. Let's not call it the skirmish success.
I mean, it depends on who you ask. So, in the last episode, we talked about this Data Doll deck that we will be bringing to the skirmish, to our local skirmish. And I think we were both quite happy with our deck lists. And both deck lists, I think, were similar, but there were a few details that were different. Like I played my fuel injectors and things like this, which you don't like. But yeah, we arrived at the skirmish and people were prepared for Data Doll, which is to be expected if you send them the link to your podcast. Yeah, if you send them the link to your podcast a few days before, it was like, here, have a look, please listen to this. And then they're like, yeah, I have all my arc smashes and things like this with me. So yeah, tell me a little bit about your experience.
So my experience at the skirmish was pretty miserable. I went 0-3. So I really felt the negative side of the variance for me. I drew 2 items in every starting hand of every game. I lost all my die rolls. So it was a pretty rough experience on my side. It was still a very fun deck to play, I have to say. Even when you're losing, it's still quite fun.
Yeah.
But it was not very successful. I also did get, I got hit by Demolition Protocol, which was incredibly brutal. If you don't know what that card does, it says when this attacks a hero, remove all Steam counters from up to X equipment, items, or weapons they control, where X is the number of evos you have equipped. And I played against Tiklovasin. So I got 4 of my items killed for absolutely no cost for him, which immediately I was just feeling comfortable enough to get back into the game, and then I got completely destroyed in 1 turn.
Oh, that
So
must feel
overall,
horrible. Yeah,
pretty brutal experience,
I
but
feel for you a little
F1
bit.
won.
Yeah.
How did you do?
Yeah, I wrote on Twitter, right? The game rolls. It rolls high and it rolls low. And I think we split up the variance quite well because I think you started 0-3, I started 3-0. And man, the deck was rolling. Like, I think I did some of the most insane things in Flesh and Blood I've done in a while. Like, starting with like turn 0 twin drive, banishing 2 items into Teklo Foundry Heart, banishing 2 items, having 2 induction chambers set up, and like a pounder out like after turn 1. And yeah, you can't lose from there. Like the deck was just like rolling, and all the defensive items came early. I think round 1 I got paired into Emperor. And we practiced the matchup before. It's a good friend of mine. We played it, I think, the week before. We played 3 or 4 games. And I didn't win a single game against Emperor. Then we sit down, round 1 skirmish. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. You'll probably kill me without me dealing damage to you. And I start with, I think, 3 defensive items on board after going first. And he just looks at me, looks at my board, sends like a meaningless arcane damage spell at me, passes turn. And yeah, the game didn't go long and he dealt 0 damage to me. So I was very, very confident. Then game 2, what did I play game 2? I don't. I play a Dorinthia. Again, I go first. Again, I get defensive items on board. The Dori looks at the board again, similar to the Emperor, and was like, yeah, I guess I'll attack you for 3, and I'm not blocking, and then there is no reaction. And then I prevent 4 damage. It's my turn. And like, I think I took 1 damage that game. So like, we're 2 games into the skirmish, and I feel like Datadol is unbeatable. Like, it's insane. And then game 3, I play against a Bravo. And again, I get to start. Again, I have like a quite good start. And all the items came exactly when they needed to come. Like, I managed to prevent 2 crippling crushes, and I win. But it was very, very tough late game situation. But yeah, if you have 2 induction chambers and 2 plasma purifiers, you will win the fatiguing. Who's fatiguing who? And yeah, that went very, very well. And it's the same Bravo I think you played before, I believe.
Yeah, it's actually really funny because I played against him the Thursday before to practice the matchup a little bit, and I won both games, I believe. And he said he went into the skirmish like so nervous about facing Datadol because he was like, "Oh, it's the matchup's terrible. Like I don't know what to do." And then he just completely wrecks me in like the first game. I draw my opening hand. I have 1 attack and 2 items, and he plays Crush Confidence, which disables Datadol for a turn.
Oh no.
So I block with my 1 attack, take 4 damage, draw another item off the top. So then I play my items, pass back, and then I draw a full boost hand. And I was like, all right, now we're getting going. And then I boost 3, another 3 boost attacks off the top. So no free items for me. And then the game just ends because I draw another hand of full items the next turn, and I get killed.
Yeah, so I think one big difference between our lists was I was running 2 adaptive platings, and I feel like the second adaptive plating won me the Bravo matchup. Like that, I think that was a difference. This like 2 to 3 life more that I had. Yeah, but so I beat Bravo, right? And then I run into Riptide, and I'm not thinking much about the matchup. I haven't practiced it at all. And I'm like, yeah, let's do the induction chamber plan, because like Riptides can be quite defensive. And then I start realizing that if you give your pistol go again, and if you give your pistol the +1s from the plasma purifier, you basically enable every single trap in their deck. And I think I was dealt, I don't know, like we arrived at a very late game situation where it's like always like trade 2 cards for blocking. Like it's just this value back and forth, leaking a damage here, leaking a damage there, both out of equipments basically. And then I have to make a decision. I'm like, either I just attack with this card for 5, I think it was a twin drive, or I load my stuff and I shoot the pistol 4 times. And then I'm like, okay, I can't afford to boost. I don't have defensive items in the deck anymore, so there is no reason for me to boost because I just go down a card. I know approximately what's left in my deck. And so I decide to, okay, maybe I'll just do the pistol thing, arsenal the twin drive, next turn come back with the twin drive +4 pistol attacks or something like this. So just get rid of all the cards. Riptide is at 3 life at this point. And then my pistol was loaded, everything was loaded. So I remove the counters from the purifier, I shoot, and then give it go again. Then after the go again resolves, Riptide does like Blood Rot Trap. And I take a damage, I get a Blood Rot. I'm at this stage at 3 life. And I'm like, haha, okay, now I got him. Because, yeah, one trap played. Maybe I can get rid of the rest of his hand. Activate Foundry Heart and, like, pay the Blood Rot. Then I attack again. After the go again resolves, he plays another Blood Rot Trap. And I'm just dead on board. So we shake hands. Cool. All right. So 3-1 going into top 4. and then I run into the same Bravo again, and it's the same issue that you had in the round when you played him. I start, I don't have a boost card, and I only have like shitty items for the starting hand. So I think I just turn 0. I just play. Oh no, I play a Teklo Pounder, I believe, and pass, but without an arsenal, which already feels bad. And then I just get smashed and crushed. And at one point, we both know he has the pummel, but I can't play around it because I only have one block card in hand. And then, yeah, the game was over very, very fast. And yeah, yeah. Bravo then turns out to win the entire event, that exact Bravo. And I later in the group, we have a small group chat. I was like, "Oh, what a surprise that the consistent deck wins the event!" But I felt like I could have got there, and I feel like there are some possibilities to improve the deck further, having it tested now more. And I think one thing is that cut down on 2 to 3 more items that are not really necessary. For example, I think if I would replace the induction chamber with like a security protocol, I think that would be one of the changes I make. Replace like 1 or 2 bad boost cards or mediocre boost cards, to maybe even have 1 or 2 red firewalls in there. Just because all the games I lost, it felt like it was lost not because of a lack in offense, but more because of a lack in defense. Because your IP1 every turn really hurts. So yeah. I still think Datadog has potential in Blitz, and I think we're not done yet brewing. And I think I'll.
So what do you think? You still stand by the statement that it's confirmed broken?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it got crushed so hard by Bravo. The doll is confirmed broken.
All right. Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
You want to talk about the heavy hitter spoilers that we got?
Yeah, the expansion slots. And before we talk about the expansion slots, I must say that I really, really like them. Like you have these classes that people love, right? For example, now Arachne, you have Assassin. People love Assassin. People have been playing Arachne, maybe not to the most successful degree in a competitive environment, and that then you get like this coercive tendency, which is a bonkers attack reaction, and I think puts the deck back in a tier where you can play this at a competitive tournament.
All right, so before we get into it, let's read the card real quick. So coercive tendencies is blue 0 cost, block 3, assassin attack reaction. It's an Arachne specialization. It says, look at the top 3 cards of defending hero's deck, put them back in any order, then banish the top card of their deck. If you complete a contract this way, your assassin attacks get go again this combat chain. So you played Arachne a good bit. What do you think about the card?
Perfect. Like Arachne is back, because the problem with Arachne was always the lack of go again. And of course you could play the boots that give go again if your assassin attack hits. But then people play more and more attack reactions against assassins, and so your conditional go again is usually not enabled. Except you can also run, like I have been brewing around with Razor Reflex and things like this, but it's like all the go again is conditional. And this, don't get me wrong, this is also conditional go again. You could run Snapdragons, but you can't buy them back with silver. But I think this card in itself, like a coercive tendency, solves most of the issues the deck has, which is you lack silver usually because you can't get all your contract cards to hit because people block, people play around, shreds and things like this. So this can basically ensure that you can get at least one contract hit. And it solves the other issue of your cards not having go again by themselves. So when you play this on the active chain, all your assassin attacks after that also gain go again. So it's the entire combat chain until you close it. So things like Codex of Frailty can become like a little bit weird. Maybe you'll play it as like a chain closer. But you could potentially park this in your arsenal and attack like with a Leave No Witnesses. Then they block it, then you play the attack reaction from your arsenal and you complete the contract. Like you banish a red card off the top because you opt 3, you're most likely able to hit. And then everything gets go again on the chain. So you could probably play 2 more zero cost contracts, and the contracts stack, right? So because they're still on the same combat chain, every time you banish the top card with from their deck, all your contracts are active. So if you play a Leave No Witness into a Leave No Witness, the second Leave No Witness hits, you get 2 silver for each red card you banish. So it allows you to go wide and still have those go big finishers on the combat chain, like for example a Death Touch or something like this. But if you have an arsenal,
do you think this opens the door for a more aggressive Arachne deck then?
I'm not sure if you really want to play full hyper aggro Arachne, because like if you want to play an aggressive deck, I don't really see Arachne as the best pick. Then you can play like, I don't know, Phi or these hyper aggressive Troma lists or Nitro Max or something like this. But I think it helps you. The way I see Arachne at the moment is like this mid-range deck. When I play it, I play different into every matchup. Like, okay, some people I try to fatigue, some people I try to outvalue. In some matchups, I try to be aggressive, but only if I get the opportunity. And what can often happen is like you create the scenarios where you block with 2 cards, you have something of relevance in your arsenal, and your opponent passes. So you have 2 cards, you have an arsenal. Let's say a Death Touch or something. So you attack with a Death Touch, they block with 2 cards, you shred it, and then they play a defense reaction. So your opponent has 1 card in hand, and you will draw up to a full grip. So the turn goes back to them. They do something with 1 card that not always requires a block, and it goes back to your turn, and you have a 4-card hand. And it's very hard to play those 4-card hands efficiently. And I think that is exactly where this card comes in now, this new attack reaction, the coercive tendency, because you can enable those turns where you have a full hand better.
It's also just a blue card that blocks 3 and costs 0. Like, what more could you want, right? Exactly.
It's like, yeah, it's everything you want. It pitches well for daggers, and I think this really holds like this mid-range idea, how I see Arachne at the moment, to be like this pivot deck between knowing when to block out and knowing when to put aggression in. And it also rewards tracking what your opponent is trying to do. And I think this in Flesh and Blood is very, very good at the moment, because you can mess up draws with this. If you know what your opponent is arsenaling, or if you track their pitch, like a well-timed disruption of the top deck of your opponent can really, really destroy entire turns. Like, for example, into Bravo, if you see they play like second cycle Bravo, and you just mess up their pitch stack, I think you can do a lot of damage. So I think this card actually, for me, it at least makes brewing with Arachne more interesting again, because I've been like derailed into these 72 card pure fatigue piles, which I like playing. Don't get me wrong, but I think this opens the door to a more mid-rangey deck, and I think Arachne will be the mid-range deck in the new format.
What about the dagger that they revealed? The new assassin weapon dagger? Graven Call says once per turn action, pay to attack, go again, piercing 1. So like the pretty much the text of all the assassin daggers. But then it's attacks for 1. And then it says instant, destroy 2 silvers you control. Equip this with a +1 counter. Activate this ability only while it's in your graveyard. What do you think of this card?
I think it fills a similar niche. So you will have more silver, hopefully, due to this new Arachne specialization, and you will be looking for ways to utilize that silver. This can be the Shriek Razors, the new arm piece. This can be your silver, all silver equipments, right? That you can sacrifice and then buy back with 2 silvers. So you will have silvers, and
yeah, get your cash-ins now.
No, I don't think you want to have cash-ins in that deck. Get your paydays now, because after the chain closes, you can still play a payday if all your assassin things have go again, and then you can buy all the Graven Calls back with your silver. No, but to be honest, I think that also fits this niche in like knowing where you are, and then depending or adjusting your game plan, and you can flick knives this Graven Call away. Then it's in your graveyard, super nice, and then you can buy it back, and it's stronger now. So in late game situations, this can be relevant. Instead of poking for 1 and 1, you poke for 1 and 2, or even 2 and 2. So it's like the double Kodachi if you are greedy enough to run 2 Graven Calls main deck. But yeah, I think it fits within this niche of a mid-range Arachne deck, and I think I know I will be brewing around with this. I don't know if it will make the cut as a 2-off, but I see myself trying this as a 1-off.
So here's a judge question. You can only ever get 1 +1 counter on this max, right? You can't keep destroying it and getting it back with more counters.
No, you can't, because the moment it goes to the grave, it loses its counters.
Right, that makes sense.
Also, what I just realized, if you have a coercive tendency out and you flick knives away your Graven Call and you have 2 silver, you can activate this again. You can activate this on the active chain, re-equip it, and then attack with it again because it's a new card. So, because it's an instant speed thing, it doesn't close the chain, and it's not a start of turn thing like your other equipment. So you could potentially throw this away with the flick knives, deal it damage, buy it back, and attack with it again. So I think there is some shenanigans.
What matchups would you play this over, like a Spider Spite, for example, or one of the other daggers that have an effect on hit?
I think in the Droma matchup, I would run this and Orbitoclast probably, because you can buy it back and have the counter and kill the 2 power dragons. I think it's a big difference if you need to spend 2 dagger attacks to kill a Chromai or 1 dagger attack to kill a Chromai. That's one of the matchups that come to my mind right now. Where else? In the mirror, I think. Even though in the mirror, I would probably want to have Nerve Scalpel and Spider Spite. Yeah, I think it's not an easy answer, but I will be trying this out, like, for sure. I was very excited. Like, it's just another tool in the toolbox, and the same for the new Arachne specialization. It's all just Arachne is such a toolboxy deck, I feel like, and you can go aggressive, you can go defensive, you can pivot mid-game, you can play for a second cycle, like you can play even like 3 last-ditch efforts and 3 remembrances if that's what you want to do. And it's just another tool in the toolbox, and I really like that.
So let's move on to one of what I'm assuming is going to be a Riptide card. It's called Reel In. It's a blue X-cost Ranger instant. It says, look at the top X+1 cards of your deck. Choose up to 4 traps, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. And it says reload. I feel like this is almost a little bit too cute.
I think it's it's a Riptide card for me, or it can fit into these Ranger decks. Like I once was playing an Azalea deck with I think 9 traps too in the sideboard. It was in Lexi meta, but yeah, it feels very Riptide-y. But yeah, I can't really evaluate this card because I don't have too much experience playing as Riptide, and I also don't have too much experience playing into Riptide. I think the reload is relevant because if you get like a dominate attack coming your way, you play this, you find a trap, you put the trap in Arsenal, and you can defend from Arsenal. So because of the reload,
You play reel in for with a blue pitch, so then you're down 2 cards. You get to look at the top 4 cards. You get to draw up to 4. You reload, put one of the traps into your arsenal. Then you can defend with 2, like 1 trap from arsenal, 1 trap from hand.
and it helps you dig, right? It helps you go through your. Oh, you need to shuffle. Oh, you need to shuffle.
Yeah, you shuffle,
That
so
is.
it doesn't help you.
Oh man, I
dig.
don't like shuffling in Flesh and Blood. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's a good card. Of course, again, it's a blue pitch, right? It's a blue pitch. It's a resource
block,
card.
so-
Yeah, it's a resource card with upside. The only downside being that it doesn't block. But I feel like this is good. When I read the card, I don't know why, but I was excited. I was like, cool. It's a cool card. But blue instants usually I like.
Oh, but it's so punishing if you miss. If you look at the top like 4 cards of your deck and you don't find any traps, you're just down 2 cards and you do nothing.
Oh man, have you ever resolved Sonata Arcanics? It's like it's the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this feels a very risky card to me. Even if you only reveal 1 trap, you're most likely down 2 cards for 1 trap in Arsenal. And I think Riptide is such a value-oriented deck that I don't know. It feels hard to justify for me.
But for me, this card, if I now know this card exists, I don't want to go below 5 life against a Riptide anymore and feel comfortable attacking because he can just like quadruple trap you or something like this. It's a scary card if you cast it and if you have it cast against you. So
let's talk about a card that is even scarier than that. So it's a legendary Azalea specialization. It's a red 1 cost, 3 block, 5 attack. Judge, Jury, Executioner. Says if this has an aim counter, it gets when this hits a hero, they discard all but 1 card from their hand. This seems incredibly brutal.
yeah, I think so it's a classic Ranger card, right? 3 block, 1 cost, red, 5 power. You can only have 1 in your deck.
You can, but you can have 3 Codex of Frailties.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Codex of Frailties, yes, but Codex of Frailty does not get it into your arsenal from deck, which means you can't get a Crow's Nest aim counter. And the conditional aim counter on there is actually relevant. But you can play 3 yellow Memorial Grounds and then put it on top of your deck and then activate your hero ability and get it into your arsenal from deck, put a counter on it with Crow's Nest, and then have the dominate and the on-hit effect. And I think this card is insane. I've been playing Sandscour Great Bow Azalea for a bit now. On and off, because I like the Death Dealer value just a little bit more.
We are gonna assume this is an auto include in every Azalea deck, right?
It is. I think it is. Yeah, like hands down. I would even cut a red Bolton shot for this, which is not the card, obviously, that I'm going to cut. But like I think it's that level of good. And the question is just like, will there now be more people brewing with Sandscar Great Bow again because of the aim counter synergies, right? You can build this aim counter disruption deck. But actually, I think you're fine with the Memorial Ground Crow's Nest plan because, I've been having success with it and I've been liking Memorial Grounds for a while already. And I think just having one more exceptional target for it is just amazing. I mean, amongst Remorseless, Sleep Dart, Red in the Ledger, this is just also, again, yet another tool in the toolbox.
It feels like Azalea has a lot of tools in her toolbox already, I have to be honest.
Yep, it's true, but also there is a card called Warmonger's Diplomacy. And people are not playing this. I think there was this, we'll talk about this a little bit later. There was this Realm Rumble CC 20k Invitational, and Brody Spurlock won on Azalea, and I haven't seen many Warmonger's Diplomacy been resolved against him on stream. And I think people should just play this card again more.
Yeah, looking through the top 8 here, Michael Hamilton played 3.
Okay.
In his Bravo deck.
Good job, Michael Hamilton, for playing an obviously
Who would have thought
very
Michael
good...
Hamilton makes a good deck building decision?
Yeah, I don't know. So if Michael Hamilton includes Warmongers in his deck, you should too. We've seen it with Wounded Bull. Just do the same with Warmongers. So I think it's an upgrade to the deck. I think all the 3 cards that we talked about are upgrades to their respective decks. How much more successful any of those decks will be just because of those cards is a good question, but I think it pushes all decks a little bit higher in how I evaluate them. And I'm now excited to give Riptide a try. The other 2 cards are, I think, just auto includes in their respective decks. And yeah, but I think you talked about the variance in cards like Reelin, and there are also other cards in the heavy hitters set that some people might think are a little bit more on the heavy variance part of the game. For example, cards like Talk a Big Game, or the cards where you have to reveal the top of your deck. And I think this is a good natural segue into our next section, where we actually want to talk a little bit about variance in Flesh and Blood and what we think about it, if it has been increasing or decreasing.
I think we definitely have more variance in the game now than we did certainly 6 months ago. I think both Brava and Icelander were such dominant, well, maybe not dominant, but they were such good decks because they had no or very little variance to them. And now with those decks in Living Legend, we naturally see a rise of high variance decks again.
You mean Ultim and
Ultim,
Icelander.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean Casino and Starvo. I think still, I've never played it, and I never played against it, so I can't judge. But I think since I'm playing Flesh and Blood, I think especially in Blitz, so I mean variance should not really be depending on the format, but I believe in Blitz the variance has historically been higher because the life totals are lower.
Yeah, I think Blitz is inherently like a high variance format, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay to have a high variance format like that. I don't know that I want my CC experience to be like my Blitz experience, though.
Yeah, I definitely don't want that. And I think like the Blitz variance is one thing that people might like, some people might dislike. It could be potentially be overcome if you make it, or be improved if you make it a best of 3 format. I think we'll never see that in CC, because just imagine doing like a Flesh and Blood tournament with 12 rounds, all best of 3.
Every round takes 3 hours.
Exactly.
You have to play best of 3s.
Good night.
And also, if you win the first 2, then you have just like an hour and a half of break because you're waiting for other game. No, best of 3 will. Even in Blitz, I don't think it's gonna be a thing.
No, it will not be a thing, but I think this could be one thing to tackle this variance and wrong sideboarding decisions and things like this. It would just add another layer of metagaming. But I think Flesh and Blood is not a game where we need best of 3, because I still think that decks are or can be built such that they are quite performing on a relatively high level without too much variance. So I think the consistency is, you can build very consistent Flesh and Blood decks in CC. And I think we have seen that those are the decks that historically perform well. I think Icelander is one of those consistent decks. As you mentioned, I think Ultim was one of the most consistent Flesh and Blood decks that we've ever seen, and that probably we will ever see in Flesh and Blood. Up to a point where it's like there is no variance at all. Like, you do the thing, you pitch deck your deck, and you win the game. Like, it's and
that is how it felt to play against Ultim, I think.
yeah. If you can't beat him, join him.
So if you look at variance as a spectrum, with like 100% variance being, a dice game or like roulette, and 0% variance being a game like chess, where do you think we are at right now?
Oh, that is a very, very good question. I don't want to answer in like a percentage, but I want to answer with how I feel it is. And I feel like we're in the sweet spot right now, to be honest. Because it goes back to this data doll at Skirmish, right? Where I said, oh, what a surprise that the consistent deck won the event. And I mean, I managed to go 3-0 with a very high variance deck. But I didn't manage to win the entire event. In Classic Constructed, we see the same thing, that the people that build or play very consistent decks and play them in a consistent manner, those are usually the people and the decks that win the event. And that's why I think the variance in the game itself is quite low if you're willing to prepare. I mean, you can bring a deck that has no AB. You can leave all your Arcane Barrier at home and leave your Oasis Respites at home, and then you get paired into 1 or 2 Kanos in your cut to top 8. And okay, you get hit by variance, but if you will lose that matchup if you make this decision, then you can change your decision. If you expect Kanos to be at the event, you can include Arcane Barrier, throw in 1 or 2 more blues, throw in your Oasis Respites.
You can prepare yourself for a certain amount of variance depending on what your local meta looks like.
I wouldn't limit this to the local meta. I think I would expand this to the entire current meta game. We've seen this at the US. Was it the US National Championship with the Fatigue Briar list? No, it's exactly this. Like, you expect Lexis to be there, then play a deck that preys on Lexis, and you can do that to the degree of winning a national championship, just by reading the meta and building the deck with the lowest variance into what you expect. And of course, this in itself again is variance, or comes with a variance, because then if you don't run into a single Lexi at this event, then I don't know what the rest of your matchup spread is, but I mean, he must have felt comfortable into all decks probably. But it's like, I don't personally feel like variance is too big in Flesh and Blood to an amount that it's unhealthy, that it's a gambling game. I still think it's a very strategic game.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of controversy spark up on Twitter this week as well about large tournaments and cuts to top eights, specifically kind of what we saw at the World Championship. I think this still stems from that there were so many players who had an equal record and only a couple of them made it to top eight. What do you think about that? Could we, or is there a need to change the way top eight cuts are done, or is there a change to the way tournaments are run that Legendary Studios should consider for these large scale events at least?
Yeah, I think it would be the ideal world would be whichever tournament you go to, there is a clean cut for top eight. Like you play as many rounds as possible, that players with a certain record, if they reach this record, they will all be day two.
I think for day two,
and of course this should not be an XO record, because those people will always be in top eight or day two.
I think for day two, they kind of have already done this, right? Like if you go to a calling, I think if you're X and 2, you're guaranteed to make it to day two, no matter how many rounds are played.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I would have to fact check you here. But the thing is that there will be people that are X3 that will be day two. And if it's 50% of the people that are X3 going to day two, the other 50%.
But I actually think for day two, that's not the case. I think there's a rule that it's top something, and then if your record is X and 2, you're guaranteed, and otherwise it's top I don't know, some number.
Yeah, but still, there we have seen this at big events, that there are always people with the same record as other people, and some of them bubble in, some of them bubble out, and it always feels bad to be on the 9th spot on a cut to top 8. I think there are people in the Fab community that are being famous for being always the 9th, and I think this can really mess with you, because you're like, yeah, but I have the same record and I lost. Maybe you lose the exact same rounds as other people, and you're in, or they are in and you're not. But I don't have an easy solution for that. I've seen things like that opponent match percentage should play a more important role, that the rounds in which the losses are shouldn't be as important as they are right now. And this, again, it is sort of a little bit of variance, right? I remember I was at, I think it was a skirmish, not this skirmish, but the skirmish before. I lost round 1. And then I knew I couldn't be in the top 4 cut, and that's it. Like, you're out. Okay, this is a very small tournament, right? And it's quote unquote just a skirmish. But if this happens to you at bigger events, I feel like it's tough, but it affects everyone. It's not that like, oh, it's last name alphabetically or something, and you're like, your last name is Zebra, and then you always bubble out because of it's not like that. There is some system behind it, and I think the system works, and it seems to work well. But I think at some tournaments it could make sense, especially if there are more and more players, the events are bigger and bigger, just to add another game to have a cleaner cut. And of course, this makes tournaments longer, and people want to rest after a long day of tournaments. But if an additional round really can help making a cleaner cut and making it a little bit an experience that feels better for everyone, even if they bubble out, then I think just adding another tournament round could really benefit some of the bigger tournaments. Also for us watching from home, I always want to watch another game.
Do you know if they decide on the day how many rounds are played, or do they decide like before the tournament starts how many rounds are played on each day? Because I think maybe you could just dynamically add one.
So at the events that I judge so far, it's always prescribed, right? But that is like PQ events and things like this. It's like if the players are in this and that range, then you play this and that many rounds, and then you make cut to top 8, and then you play the top 8. I think for the very big events, it's like that too. Like for Worlds, but for Worlds is different, right? Because Worlds, they knew exactly how many players there will be because of the people needed to redeem their PTIs and things like this. So, yeah, I think they should have added another round probably of CC in day 1. Yeah. But that is just like very objectively, right? Of course, there is a motivation for it being the way it is, and we might not have all the information. We might need to fully understand why it is as it is. But I'm also pretty sure that if there are concerns that are valid, and if there are issues with the current system, that it will be improved in the future, because LSS does listen to their community, and if there is a better solution, the situation will be improved, I'm pretty sure. But I think how it is right now, I don't see a too big issue.
I think that almost already brings us to the end of our show.
Yeah, so that was a lot of talk about variance and meta variance. Of course, it's an ongoing discussion, right? And we don't have answers to all these questions, and it's very subjectively in a way too. So we would really appreciate if you contact us on Twitter and engage in the discussion. What do you think about variance in Flesh and Blood? What do you think about the spoilers, the heavy hitter spoilers? Like, we really think it's important for us to exchange ideas and not live in a two-man echo chamber and bounce ideas back and forth. But we want to know what you think, what you feel. How does the variance in Flesh and Blood affect you? Yeah.
So before we end our show, let's talk about the crazy brew of this week.
Yeah.
And this week is not just some dash deck that we're going to bring to Skirmish. It's actually a deck that has performed incredibly well at this weekend's Realm Rumble. It is Peter Budensek's
Budenseek.
Okay, it's Peter Budensek's
Budenseek.
Kano deck. And he made top 8 at the Realm Rumble, which was a huge event that took place in Ohio this past weekend. You're as a Kano main, what do you think this made this deck so special?
Yeah. So first of all, I watched some of the games that Peter played on stream, and I was like super hyped. Like, I was in the Kano Discord, like everyone was hyped, everyone is excited because Peter is historically like one of the best Kano players in the world, hands down, like no discussion. And in the Kano Discord, people always try out new things, come with new ideas, and then like I like to brew with Kano, but this is like next level thing. So I opened the deck list, I have it in front of me, and just like looking at just the equipments. Like, the equipments is just like your classic, quote unquote, classic Kano suite of Crucible of Aetherweave, your Tunic, Metacarpus Nodes, Stormstriders, like the normal things Ragamuffin's had. But then there are things like, there is an Arcane Lantern in there. So, like, I don't know if he's just trolling, honestly. Then there is a Hardened Cross Trap. So for those of you who don't know what Hardened Cross Trap does, it's like, it costs you an action, you can destroy it, and your next attack action card costs 2 less. Go again. Then you look through the deck list, and the only attack is a Nourishing Emptiness. So Peter decided that, okay, there is a... Maybe we should have asked Peter to be interviewed, because I really want to hear his thoughts on this. So he must have decided that having a one-off in a deck of... Okay, his main deck is also 69 cards, which is also interesting. But I think it's just all the cards. It's all the cards, and then he just boards out. And so I haven't seen him run Heart and Cross Trap on stream once. And I haven't seen him resolve a Nourishing Emptiness once. There is also a one-off Remembrance. There is Imperial Warhorn in there. There is a Reinforce the Line. And I mean, okay, there are some Kano decks. I run 6 D-Reacts in my Kano deck, 2 for the stack matchups. But 1 Reinforce the Line, 1 Oasis Respite, 1 Remembrance, and 1 Brainstorm. Like, I don't see too many cards that synergize with Brainstorm. Like, you can build a Brainstorm Kano deck with all the draw effects, with your potions, and things like this. But I see only the normal draw effects, like the 6 tomes. Yeah, it could be for the draw my matchup, but I don't know. I feel like he's running his main deck into almost everything. And then just sprinkle the spice in, because there is also Threadbare Tunic, and yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like he has this classic 60 card, or he knows something that I don't know. But if someone would give me this deck and say, oh, play this at an event, I would play it like your normal stock Kano list. That is a little bit high on 2 costs, or higher on 2 costs than what I'm running. But I would probably run the sharp 60 and always sideboard my Warhorn, my Remembrance, my Nourishing, my Respite, and the Reinforce the Line. Of course, Nourishing in the Droma matchup is amazing, because you can attack a dragon like a Themai, and then you get the +1 intellect, which can win you the game on the spot into like some red line lists. The Brainstorm, actually, now that you say it could be good into Dromai 2 with a tome, if you pair it with a tome, because you can just, every draw is a ping on an Ashwing or on a dragon. That could be it. That's actually very spicy, very interesting. And yeah, other than that, it looks like a wildfire combo deck. The Reinforce the Line maybe into Azalea. But yeah, when I saw the equipment suite, I was like,
even Reinforce the Line only works on attack action cards. So the only thing in the deck that you can reinforce is the Nourishing Emptiness. This is incredibly wild.
So I think this is an example of someone trying to bamboozle us in a way, because I think this is just a quote unquote classic Kano list with some spice, and just added some cards, some open sideboard slots, just added random cards to distract people. Because like Arcane Lantern is an offhand. There is not a single one-handed weapon, so you can never run Arcane Lantern. Like you simply cannot. So why is it there? It's just like ha. I have all the arcane energy with me. I'm the Kano. The Heart and Cross Trap, Nourishing Emptiness, Reinforce the Line, Triangle is really interesting. I think it's just like, what I could see is if there is an event with an open deck list, and you get this, like you play a Kano in top 8, it's open deck list, you get their deck list, and you look at this, and you overreact. You're like, oh shit, he's on this and that plan, and you over sideboard, like you bring in D-Reacts or whatnot.
I think you would have to be mad to bring in D-Reacts for one single Nourishing Emptiness, no?
Yeah, probably. But Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So I will try to contact Peter and ask him about the details here. The remembrance, when I saw it, I also thought I might know why. Like in the high AB matchups to get your swell tidings back in, or your spindles. I don't know what to do with this information. Looking at this deck, and I think this actually is super cool. Like people keep innovating, and people keep like bringing the spice and changing up things. And even if it's just a distraction, right? We are talking about it right now. And people will hear about it, and people will look at the stack list, and they'll be like, this is very interesting. And then in a year from now, maybe you play Droma at an event, you get a brainstorm resolved against you, and then you're like, hold on, this is like the Peter special right here. So yeah, I think it's good. People should keep innovating. I think the Imperial Warhorn is there maybe for the control dash matchups. But then the Remembrance would be there for the Imperial Warhorn 2, that you can Warhorn twice, like 2 induction chambers or something like this. Yeah, but I would probably try to stack in those scenarios. And if you play Remembrance and shuffle things back in, then yeah, I don't know. My brain has some...
What is happening?
Has some issues processing the cards that I see. Yeah. And I think that is good. I think that is exactly what a Kano deck should do. Yeah. Also, I saw him, like, someone asked him for his deck, I think, on Twitter. And then he was like, my deck list is wild. And now seeing the deck list, I agree. It's wild. But I really, really like it. And I think that's... I mean, he top eight at the Realm Rumble 20K Invitational, like on Kano, into not an easy field. Very good players, not easy matchups. So, yeah, respect for that. Great job, and yeah, people please keep innovating, and people please keep bringing the spice.
All right, thank you so much for listening to this week's show. You can find us on Twitter under the handle at ldfpod, that's ldfpod, or you can send us an email under questions@ldfpod.com, that is questions@ldfpod.com. We're looking forward to hearing from you all, and we hope you tune in again in 2 weeks when it's time again for the LDF podcast.